Hello and welcome to video 13 in the Miko Microlearning Dynamic Array series. This one's focusing on the filter function with multiple fields. We have to connect them with some logical operator, either and or or. We're also going to use that on table as we've done in the past. As a reminder, we're going through all of the dynamic array functions, and this is the second one on filter. If you're just tuning in now, please go back and watch some of those because there are some really good ones, including XLOOKUP and TOROW and TOCOL. So if we remember the filter function, we take an array that we want to filter, and there is a condition we want to include. What from this array do we want to include? But there's only one include parameter. So if we're basing that on multiple fields, we need to make that one parameter either true or false based on the combination of those fields. We also have the optional argument if empty, if it doesn't match. Let's go back to the example that we used earlier. We have this array from A11 to F24, and we wanted to pull back the things that have category A. We did that in the earlier video, but I also want to make sure that it also has a minimum annual comp of 50,000, category A and greater than 50,000. Okay, so how are we going to do that? We're going to use the asterisk or the multiplier. When we say it equals A, if it equals A, it comes back as a 1. If it's greater than 50,000, it comes back as a 1. 1 times 1 multiplies to 1, and 1 in Excel means true. Okay, I know that maybe wasn't real clear, but let me show you what we mean. So we're going to go to cell H11, and we're going to use our filter function, equal filter, and we're going to filter if A11 through F24. And we're going to say here, we only want to include if things, I'm going to use the open parenthesis, that's important, B11 through B24 is equal to this category. And because I want to do an and here, I'm going to say multiply that by D11 through D24 is greater than or equal to this 50,000, which is an I8. Okay. So the only way this will come back as true is if this evaluates to 1 and this evaluates to 1. Think of the asterisk as a replacement for and. If we don't find any, I'm going to say not found. Hit enter, and we get all the people in category A, and you see that have an annual composition over 50,000. If I reduce this to 40,000, just like that, I get extra people. If I raise it to 90,000, I'm only going to get that person. Now I'm basing that filter off of 2 criteria. So that is and logic. Well, how about or logic? When we do or logic, it's going to be the same formula, except instead of multiplying those conditions, we're going to add those conditions. So if this is 1 and this is 0, 1 plus 0 is going to be 1, which is true. If this is 0 and this is 1, 0 plus 1 is 1, which is true. Even if they're both true, 1 plus 1 is 2, which anything other than 0 is going to evaluate to true. So I'm simply going to do this. I was going to have you enter this into another formula, but let's just do this. Let's change that asterisk to a plus. So all we've done now is say, hey, it's either category C or greater than 40,000. I hit enter, and I'm going to get a lot more, right? I get all of the C's, obviously, but I also get anything greater than 40,000. So let's do 90,000. These are either over 90,000 or category C. Okay, so the plus evaluates to an or, the asterisk evaluates to an and. Now let's look at the use case here. If you recall, we have the sales table, and in the sales table, we have a customer name, and we also have a sales amount. So we want to build ourselves a little kind of query. In this case, I want to give it a customer number, and then I want to give it a range for the sales value. I want it to be equal to this customer, and the sales value has to be higher than the low range, and the sales value has to be lower than the high range. Think about that as the gap. I use the and condition there twice, so I need to do 3 different criteria together. So once again, and it works very nice with tables, I'm going to filter my friend the sales table. I'm first going to say, hey, the customer, sales detail customer name has to equal this customer. I always want to put these criteria in parentheses because I want that evaluation to happen first. Then I'm going to say multiply that, okay, sales detail, sales amount has to be greater than or equal to, and I'm going to use the low range and parenthesis, multiplied sales detail, sales amount, and is going to be less than or equal to that high range. Okay, so I have three criteria multiplied together. The only time it will evaluate to a 1 is if all three evaluate to a 1, 1 times 1 times 1. If any of them evaluate to false or 0, it will not come back. And I'm going to say not found. So these are all the transactions for customer 10632. Let's take a look at those transactions. They go from small $7, some are as much as $300. So let's say I want to go somewhere between $50 and $100. Okay, and just like that, for that customer, I have 4 transactions that are between $50 and $100. If I change that to $70, now I only have 2 transactions that evaluate to that. So if we look at this syntax up here, all we're doing is saying filter that sales table, but all of these conditions have to be true. The customer name has to be equal to B10, the sales value has to be greater than or equal to C10, and the sales detail, the sales file, the sales amount has to be less than or equal to D10. So not so hard, but when you think about filter, think about the asterisk as an and think about plus as an or. If I were to change this, I'm going to get a lot of things back. I'm going to get all the transactions for that customer, but I'm not going to get anything in the $70 to $100 range. So you see, I get that customer, anything that's greater than or equal to 70 or less than or equal to, which is going to be a lot of things. So almost the whole table. So the only thing I'm not getting are things in that range, I guess. Okay. So probably not a good use case of that, but I wanted to show you how the plus works as well. If you're enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe. This will be a last one for a while because I'm going to move on to another project, but I'm going to finish it up at some point. So thank you very much for following along. Take care. Goodbye.